Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing the M54 reliability video, and is it still reliable in 2019? As a lot of people keep asking, and I'm seeing a lot of comments on people's videos asking if they should still buy the M54 engine in this day and age and this year, and is it cheap and it's more economical than the newer engines to run. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over all the basics on this engine right here, and I'm going to show you if this engine's more reliable to this day and age and if it's a good buy in 2019. Okay guys, so the majority of you probably know already about the M54 engine and if it's reliable and if it's more reliable than the M52. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the most common problems on this engine and the prices and let you know how much this whole engine costs compared to the M52. So first thing we'll get onto the fan clutch and the viscous fan right here. This common problem, it can end up coming off and smashing everything up in your underneath the engine and underneath the hood. That is a well-known cause. Easiest thing to do is when you replace the water pump and the thermostat, you're going to take it off anyway, replace the clutch. Now the fan clutch itself is about £40 here. It's not hard to replace. 3 bolts, it comes off, put the new one on, bolt it back on. You don't need to switch to the electric fan, there's no need. This fan does everything we need in the UK, and I've not seen it do anything different. I've done it on my diesel and it was fine. The next thing, the water pump and the thermostat. Now, as you saw in my previous videos, that was never changed in this car. The last owner told me that everything had been changed. It had not been changed, and as you saw in my videos, it was still on the original BMW parts and how badly worn it was. The thermostat was about £30 and the water pump was about £27. I replaced them both cheaply on trade discount. I got the parts very cheap, and now it's got the metal impeller water pump. So when you go and buy one of these as well, you just want to make sure it's not leaking, because that's another common problem, that the water pump starts leaking from the gasket and the thermostat starts leaking where the gasket, as you saw in my video, the thermostat gasket was completely deteriorated and blown. So that's out the cooling way, but also with the coolant, you want to be checking the lower radiator hose down here, which is right down here, and the top one as well, which I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to put my torch on so you can see. So the lower one, which sits right there, when we're replacing it, goes to the bottom of the radiator, and when you do drain the coolant, you want to use that one to drain it. So that's the first one you want to replace, and then you're going to want to replace the top one here, which they're not hard hoses to replace and they are common to go. The next thing is the valve cover. So the valve cover leaks on these. Obviously, as you know, mine was got a new reinforced one with the push down style coils, not the bolt-in coils. When it leaks, it causes oil to leak onto your exhaust and also oil to leak out the back, which is normal on these. And it's a common problem on them. When they leak, they go, and you need to change them, because obviously they just end up losing a lot of oil and smelling oil in your cabin. You don't want that. This one isn't leaking so far, so I don't need to really touch that. It's actually in good condition. The gasket itself feels good as well and solid, as you can see here. I can play with it and it's not breaking apart anywhere, so it looks like it's probably just been replaced. I don't have a receipt for it, but by the looks of it, it's been replaced, so we won't be touching that. That's another common problem. I do advise when you do that as well, the Vanos adjusters underneath as well, which advanced timing, is another thing you guys were going to want to replace. Now you can buy the kit on eBay, the whole lot, for I think it's £70. It comes with a valve cover, gasket, and the whole set of stuff to do everything in the Vanos new O-rings to replace them when you do the valve cover. Now you're better off to do the Vanos O-rings if you're doing the valve cover anyway, because it's all the bolts here, 30mm bolt and all the bolts that go around here to release from the solenoids to take off the whole Vanos itself and replace the O-rings. The next thing that goes wrong on these cars, which I do know, is the DISA flap. That's just like the M52, but obviously on the M54 engine it only has one DISA valve. They aren't as expensive as they are on the M52, but they do go bad and they can cause a rattle. As you know, the vacuum operated DISA flaps are not electronically controlled like the M52, so they do go and they do need replacing. Other common problem is the intake boot. Now this one is split, and I only just found out earlier it was split, so I'm going to take you around there and I'll show you how split it is. Now if you can see here, this is how kind of England they do it. Hold on a second, hold on. As you can see right there, someone's put a bandage around the bit going to the idle control valve, because it's split, and they've tried to cheaply make it because you can't find them parts and they're quite expensive from BMW. So right there is the bandage, and they bandaged it up. So what I've got to do is take that off and redo it myself. I've got a new one. They're about £19 on eBay, a Febby Bilstein one, but they are another common problem that goes on these cars. The next thing, your oil filter housing gasket. They can leak sometimes, not all the time, and it's not known that they leak, but when they do, that needs replacing. CCV hoses, as you know, this one's probably way overdue now, and I'm going to be changing it. Now if you can see just down here,
I'm just trying to shine a light down here. Let me just open the torch up so you can see. Now if you can see right down there, I don't know if you can on the video, I'm just trying to adjust it so you can see right here it's leaking. Right in the corner there, you can see it from the CCV, it's leaking down there. So these hoses need to be changed. As you see here, they're cracked as well, so we're going to be changing them as well. The next thing are the O-rings on the dipstick. They're only cheap to buy. They're about £3 to buy them. To change that, and you're better off to change that when you change the CCV anyway. Power steering hoses, power steering reservoir, they're cheap to buy on eBay, probably about £30 as well to change. Camshaft sensors on these like to go out as well. That's another problem on these. They're not really expensive. They're about £25 each on this car. Nothing major, but it's something to be aware of if you get any kind of camshaft faults or any kind of lean codes. Check your camshaft sensors. MAF sensors, another thing here, they like to go out and cause a big issue. It's just the way they go, always are on these cars. They like to eat the MAF sensors, especially if you've got a performance air filter on them. They're a proper common problem. O2 sensors, which are right down here, as you'll see, them right there, they like to cause a lot of problems as well. A lot of issues, the O2 sensors. And when they do, they're very easy to change. They're not hard, as you know. They sit right down here, as you can see on the plugs, and they're actually easy to change over. Again, they're about £40. If you've got trade discount, they won't be expensive. Obviously, because I've got trade, I don't really find any of the parts for BMW expensive at all. That's it, guys. I think we've gone over mostly the common problems on these. This engine is very cheap to maintain. As I say, the DISA valve's about £40. CCV system, proper Febby Bilston one's about £100. Valve cover and the Vanos O-rings, which you're better off to do, as I'm telling you, if you're ever going to change a valve cover, change them, because they can cause loss of power, rough idling, and just all kinds of codes. Hard start in cold weather, they can cause a lot of things to go wrong with your car, so you're better off to change them. But majority of the parts on this are very cheap. I wouldn't say it comes up to more than £300. If you wanted to overhaul this whole engine, it wouldn't cost more than £300. Even the coolant pipes that run under the manifold, you don't have to do them. In the UK, where I don't think we suffer from that problem as bad as doing in America, because we don't get that kind of heat. But that is not really a common problem. But if you wanted to change them, if you're taking off the manifold, change them anyway, and all the vacuum lines that run with it. As you can see here, there's a vacuum hose that goes into the brake booster itself here. You can replace that one as well, which runs all the way down here and over, as you see there, and go straight to the under the manifold. That's another vacuum line that you can replace. You don't have to, you can choose to. It is all by choice. You don't have to replace all these things, but the main things I would replace are the CCV, valve cover, water pump, thermostat, as they're the most common things to go. Obviously the coolant reservoir itself can blow and you'll need a new one of them. As I say, that's the most common culprit for leaks from the cooling system. As you'll know, this switch down here, as I explained in my last video, that's the switch where the fan usually comes on, cuts on the electric fan. If anyone with an electric fan and it's not working, usually that's because of the cools. It can't read the correct temperature to cool down the car. There is quite a few niggly bits on this car, more than the M52, but overall this engine is a lot more reliable than the M52. And would I pick this one over the M52? Yes, I would, purely because the parts are not expensive. On the M52 you've got the electronic water pump, very expensive. For the price you can overhaul this whole car, you'll spend on one water pump on the M52. The only difference between this and the M52 is the M52 makes better power, but that's only because of them Vanos solenoids. But this car idles a lot smoother, especially after a software update and gearbox update. This car is so much smoother on the M54 engine. People who've never had the update on their car wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but I do, as this car was running rough when I got it. Since I've done the update, the idle is like a completely different car. The M52 on the other hand, the reason it idles rust is based on them Vanos solenoids. They stick, they end up shutting, they're not pumping enough oil as the adjusters want, the correct timing, and they just cause a lot of issues. Me personally, I would avoid the M52 at all costs, but that's just my opinion. Like I say, I prefer this engine over the M52 engine. Is this engine harder to work on than the M52? Yes, it is. The intake manifold requires a lot more skill to get this off than the M52 does. The M52 manifold is very, very easy, to the point I could do that with my eyes closed now. But oil leaks, they are prone to oil leaks, the M52, where this one isn't so much. And that is because that engine is designed to run hotter. And as you know with science, if the engine is designed to run hotter, it will cause a lot of the seals to get hotter, which then they could perish a lot faster. The reason the M52 runs a lot hotter is all for emissions only and to give better fuel economy. That's all it is. The car does give great fuel economy, but overall I prefer the M54 engine. That is just my take on it. That's the whole reason why I got one, and I look to plan to hopefully keep this car. As I say though, this M54 engine is solid and reliable. As you see here, all the lines, they end up getting oil on them, which you can see clearly there. and when they do, they get oil on them, but all you got to do is just really clean them up and change them if need be. But this car, again, isn't so difficult to change anything on. It's actually very simple. As you can see, the purge valve, the fuel purge valve underneath the intake, that can sometimes go as well. It's another common problem on these, but it's not so common. So be aware of that. Like I said, the M52s are known for that because they want the highest 99 grade fuel, most M52s, and that's why it ends up blowing a lot of things. But above all else, as I say to you guys, this engine is super reliable still in 2019. The only problem is, if you do live in London, or you're going to be in London, this car, I do not believe, meets the ultra low emission zone where the M52 does. That's the only problem. So if you are getting this, you will not be able to drive this in London without paying a high price. M52 does meet that ultra low emission zone. But if you are going to buy an E60, you can get this engine in it, and I would advise getting this engine in it. The only problem I know of with these engines going in them, is the gearbox problems. They had a lot of gearbox problems because they used this gearbox with this engine, where the other one had the 6 HP 19. This one I don't believe did. So they're the only issues you really have to look for, guys. There's not many on this. Like I say, intake boot, oil dipstick, the O-rings, the oil stick itself, when you take that out to change the CCV, you've got the O-ring on that, just replace that. It's not too hard. CCV itself, that needs to come off, and it's very easy to take off. You can do it without the manifold being on, but I should suggest doing it with the manifold off, and which I'm going to be doing in my next video, is taking it all off and redoing everything. The coolant lines underneath, you can redo them. It's not advisable, but it's down to you how you prefer to do it. Everyone to their own. I'm not going to do it, as I don't believe they need doing. We don't suffer with overheating of these cars here. I've not known it anyway. As I say to you, this is the new engine. This isn't the 523 engine with the head gasket issues. The valve cover gasket is the reinforced one after 02. As you all know, the valve cover that leaks a lot, and as I said to you, it's very easy to replace. If you're going to replace it, change your Vanos seals at the same time. Majority of the problems are related to cooling issues on this, but as long as you replace all the hoses as shown, the lower radiator hose and the top radiator hose, and the water pump and the thermostat, you shouldn't have any issues. And just replace it with the right coolant. You saw in my video I used blue coolant, Coma, G48. It might be different in other countries, I'm not sure. I choose to use blue coolant because that's what BMW recommends. That's all and it's not really expensive. £25 for 5 litres. I don't find that expensive at all. I'd rather use that than use anything else and risk the car overheating. So I'm going to use whatever is specified for the car. I choose to obviously not skimp out on the cars. That's just how I am. Obviously I want to give them the best treatment possible. Like I say, thanks for watching this video, guys. Like I said, I hope this is going to help you on your mission to find an M54 or an M52. But the majority of the problems here have been listed, and if I'm completely honest with you, my personal opinion, M54 is more reliable than the M52. And I have both, so I can tell you now. But M52 is much easier to work on than the M54. So as you've seen, guys, I've just gone through a review of what's reliable on the M54 compared to the M52. As I just told you, I do still prefer in 2019 the M54 engine, and I think I always will. This engine has a soft spot in my heart. It's one of the BMW's best engines ever made. The M52, everyone says, is a very good inline 6-cylinder engine, but preferably this car is cheaper to maintain. If all else failed, I'd prefer to have this engine in an E60, but it's very simple on a 3 Series as well, and it's still a reliable engine. If you use it properly and maintain it properly, this car will go on and on forever. And it's a true saying. Like I say, providing you change the oil and do all the relevant maintenance to this car is a very strong car. So I hope you like this video, guys. It's BMW Dr. Dean here. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And thank you for watching, and goodbye.